Hello, and welcome to the Web Development Workshop. My name is Liz Dvorsky, and I'm a computer science major here at Bristol Community College. Today I will be sharing a few things about HTML. Then, we will all create our own web pages. What is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is the web's first language. HTML composes every web page on the internet. Sir Tim Berners-Lee invented the web, along with HTML, in 1989. In 1990, he released the first web browser, which was called World Wide Web. Much like the internet itself, the web's original purpose was to share research. In addition to being a web browser, the World Wide Web is also what you see is what you get web page editor. It was not until 3 years later that the HTML standards became public. Several versions of HTML have been released since 1993. In 1995, HTML2 introduced images to the web. HTML 3.2, which was released in 1997, made it possible for users to play interactive games. In 1999, HTML4 was released. It brought with it many new styling options. The HTML4 dynasty lasted for 15 years until it was replaced by HTML5 in 2014. HTML5 is our current standard. HTML, Hypertext Markup Language, is a markup language. A markup language tells a document what types of content it should have and determines its layout. HTML is just one example of a markup language. XML is another kind of markup language, and it is responsible for many document formats. One of the best things I've learned at Bristol Community College is that Microsoft Word documents are actually a bunch of compressed files. If you open one up in an unzip utility, you will find some folders and XML files. This is very similar to the way websites are organized. So let's open sample page 1 and sample page 2 in Notepad. When you open an HTML document in a text editor, this is how it looks. The words or letters inside the angle brackets are called tags. Most tags have a corresponding tag called a closing tag. In between the opening tag and the closing tag is the content for that part of the document. You might imagine the tags as boxes. The boxes can contain other boxes. They can also contain text that is displayed on the web page. Looking at sample page 1, the first line here is not actually a tag. It is a declaration that tells the web browser which version of HTML we're using. In this case, it's HTML5. I'm going to open this up in Chrome as well. Then there's the HTML tag. Everything between the HTML opening tag and its closing tag is the markup language. This is all the HTML. There are usually two parts to the HTML document. The first is the head, and the second is the body. Inside the head, there's mostly information that is not shown in the browser. The head usually contains metadata and links to other resources. The resources could be files that say how the page is going to be styled, or files that describe the interactive elements. In our case, there's only a title element inside of the head. This actually does appear in the browser, and in Chrome it can be seen on the tab here, an HTML page. So then there's the body tag. Everything between the body tag and its closing tag is going to be shown in the browser's viewport. The body's opening tag has something extra here. It's called an attribute. This one, background color, BG color, describes the body's background color. Right now the attribute's value is light yellow. If we wanted to, we could change that. Let's try light blue. Save. Refresh the page. And as you can see, the color has changed to light blue. So the background attribute is actually from HTML 3.2. So it's no longer conventional to do this. By today's standards, the background color would be changed using a separate language called CSS. So for the purpose of this workshop, I've used a few HTML 3.2 conventions. The font tag is also from HTML 3.2. Everything between its opening tag and its closing tag, all the text is going to be formatted in a way that the font tag's attributes say it ought to be. Since the page's heading is in there and the color attribute has the value red, the heading should be red. And at least in the Chrome web browser, this is true. The heading is red. There are a few other attributes we might add to the font tag. One is the size attribute. So let's try 20. Save the page. Refresh. Oh. That's the wrong tag. So let's cut that out and paste it here. Save the page. Refresh. And that's heading is much larger than it was before. Another attribute we could try is face. And that changes the typeface of whatever text is being described by the font tag. So how about Comic Sans, Microsoft? It's beautiful. The second font tag here is saying that all of this should be green. That's true for our paragraph element here, which happens to be one sentence. It's green. But the anchor element, which makes the hyperlink here, it's not green. It's still the default color of blue. Why did that happen? Well, the anchor element has different states with separate stylings. There's a color for unvisited links, a color for active links, and a color for visited links. If we wanted to change all these colors at once, we would have to use CSS. In HTML 3.2, the color for these states can be changed individually inside of the body tag. So let's add the link attribute to the body tag, which this changes the color of unvisited links. Now we have some line breaks. As you can see, the line breaks do not have a closing tag. They're what you would call a void element. There's nothing in them. They're self-closing. What the line breaks do is they skip over a line, making some extra space in the web page. This would be the same as pressing the return or enter key inside of a what you see is what you get editor or a text editor. Next, there are two lists. One is unordered and the other one is ordered or numbered. Inside the list elements are the list item elements. These can be changed. Let's also add a heading. Heading 2. The heading elements go from H1 to H6, with H1 being the largest or most important heading. Top 3 mammals. Save and refresh the page. Finally, there's the button. This doesn't really do anything right now. It's clickable, and it has a kind of hover effect when you move the cursor over it. Typically JavaScript, another separate language, would be used to make the button more interactive. There's actually a new attribute that has been added to HTML. As of this year, all browsers support a new attribute called the popover attribute. What happens is you click the button and another element appears on the web page. There are some pretty good examples on Mozilla.org and w3schools.com. So let's take a look at this one. So the popover target attribute has been added to the button, and it has the value myHeader. So this is referring to the heading element here, which has the ID myHeader. The heading also has the popover attribute, so when we click on the button, the targeted element should appear, which it does. So there are about 30 minutes left to the workshop. If you guys want to, you can continue working on this page. There are many comments that kind of explain what's going on. If you're feeling adventurous, you could try adding the popover action to the button. The text or colors can also be changed. There's a link right here that lists all of the colors named in HTML. This link right here has more history of the web. If you would like to learn about additional tags, Mozilla.org and W3Schools are good resources. There's another page here, sample page 2. You could start from that, or if you wanted to, you could even start from scratch. Just create a new file and save it as an HTML file.